Fernanda García Álvarez. Fernando Mendoza. Fernando y Francisco.
This week's morbid find of a severed leg dangling off a bridge is just among a string of recent incidents involving body parts, all suspected to be the work of the new Familia Michoacana, among the most ruthless of Mexican cartels.
Cartel members are posting videos like these on TikTok. But why are they doing it?
Mexico has been plagued with violent cartels for years. These cartels have done the most horrific things to mark territories and leave warnings to rival cartel members or the police. Those evil acts have, however, been largely perpetrated in private, rarely subjected to public viewing. But with social media advancement came platforms for people to share parts of their lives for their followers to see. And the cartels were not left out, except unlike regular folks who post videos of them dancing or doing other normal things. These cartels have taken to posting the most gruesome videos of them torturing people, the kind of content that will send chills down the spine of even the most hardened of criminals. The aim, to strike fear in the hearts of anyone who dares to cross them. And people don't even have to go to the dark corners of the internet, a place known as the dark web, to find these gory videos. They are posted to fun social media platforms like TikTok. Welcome to Trapdoor. Today we are going to discuss the worst cartel torture videos posted on TikTok.
Muchas veces para mandar mensaje a las otras organizaciones, pues muchas veces hacia la policía, de que no les podemos hacer nada. Pero nosotros seguimos combatiendo a todas las organizaciones, pues las que se presenten.
People going missing in Mexico has become so regular, it is now considered a part of life. Tens of thousands of people have disappeared in Mexico over the past 10 years, and a large part of missing persons in Mexico are the result of cartel violence. As of 2020, Mexico has seen the disappearance of over 85,000 people, according to official stats. But some people believe that figure is grossly understated. This is because people go missing almost daily in Mexico, and while some of them are kidnappings and are eventually released when the ransom money is paid, most of them are related to cartels, and unfortunately, those people never again see the light of day. Such was the case of Maria Fernanda Garcia Alvarez. On July 15th, 2021, Maria Fernanda Garcia Alvarez vanished without a trace. At first, nothing stood out about Maria's disappearance. It looked like any other disappearance in Mexico. A few months later, the case took on a very gruesome twist. Maria was a 16-year-old girl born in Toluca, Mexico. Maria was a little girl with big dreams. She was determined to fight her way out of the poverty that kept her family bound to their small town of Toluca. Unfortunately for Maria, her dreams for a better life would pave the way to her gruesome murder. In July 2021, Maria went missing. When Maria went missing, her family immediately sprang into action. They made missing person posters with details of what she was wearing the day of her disappearance. The poster also had information about the person she was last seen with, a boy with brown hair. Maria's family begged anyone with information on Maria or the guy she was last seen with to come forward. Although most missing persons in Mexico are never found, Maria's family held hope in their hearts that their daughter would be found safe and sound. But a few months later, a video circulating the internet would crush their hopes and spirits. When the video was released, it was clear that Maria's murder was cartel-related. And from what Maria said in the video, it was obvious that in a bid to build a better life for herself and her family, Maria had gotten involved with dangerous cartel members. On July 20th, 2021, a video of Maria went viral online. In the video, Maria could be seen on her knees, her hands bound behind her back, a gun pointed at her head, and one knife held to her throat. Maria was questioned by a guy whose voice was distorted by some kind of technology. Maria's voice, on the other hand, was raw, shaky, and laced with terror. Maria was interrogated in the course of the torture.
María Fernanda García Álvarez. Fernando Mendoza. Fernando y Francisco. Oscar, Sayago y yo. A Fernando Mendoza.
Maria begged for her life, but sadly, her desperate pleas fell on deaf ears. We cannot show you the full footage of Maria's torture and death because it is too gruesome to see, and we advise you not to go looking for it. That is not something you can ever unsee. Maria was slowly murdered for 2+ minutes. Her murder was slow due, in part to the blunt knife used by the sicario. Whether the sicario chose the blunt knife on purpose to drag out the torture, or whether he was just inexperienced, is not clear. But what was clear is Maria's piercing screams of agony as the knife slowly penetrated her and she bled out. After the release of the video, there was an outcry in Mexico. Parents were tired of losing their children to either the cartels or cartel-related violence. The Mexican government put together a task force to bring Maria's murderers to justice. But as of today, the men who tortured and tormented Maria in the most horrific way possible and had the nerve to post online have yet to be caught. Cartels have zero tolerance for people who infiltrate them and often inflict the worst possible punishments on them when they're caught. But what they hate more is members of rival cartels. When members of rival cartels are caught, they're often tortured in ways that will chill your soul. Big cartels like the Sinaloa, CJNG, and many more cartels have been reported to make soups out of their enemies' bones, skin their enemies alive, and sew their faces onto footballs. Amongst the most brutal cartels that have shown no mercy to enemies in the past is the Los Zetas cartels. The Los Zetas cartel rose to fame when they separated from the Gulf cartel. Los Zetas was led by one of the most ruthless cartel leaders to have existed, Miguel Trevino, aka Zef 40. Zef 40 was known for his brutality. He devised inventive ways of torturing his enemies or anyone who deigned to cross him.
He was one of the first persons I've seen to cut somebody's head off. He took his head off just by he shot him more than 200-300 rounds. And he was telling everybody, this is the way you kill somebody.
Miguel Trevino Morales was born and raised in Nuevo Laredo, Tamaulipas, along the Mexico-US border. Like every other teenager growing up in that time, he got involved in criminal activities and eventually joined a local gang called Los Tejas. In the late 1990s, his English skills and experience caught the attention of the leader of the Gulf Cartel, and his journey into organized crime began. After years of turf wars and violence between the Gulf Cartel and the Sinaloa Cartel, Miguel Trevino decided to abandon the Gulf Cartel and establish his own, called Los Zetas, in 2010. Los Zetas were fairly new to organized crime, so they needed to make a name for themselves, and they needed to do it fast. What better way to announce their presence in the world of drug and violence than with an equal level of violence? Los Zetas quickly became known as ruthless and violent. They started turf wars in an effort to expand their territories and didn't care who they killed in the process, as long as they got what they wanted.
I seen one time Miguel Trevino was torturing somebody. It was two brothers. And he made one brother kill the other one. He told them, look, only one of y'all is gonna live. So you have to kill him or you kill him, so decide. I already knew that he was gonna kill the both of them, but he just wanted to not torture these people, not physically, but mentally. Mess him up in the head.
Some of the torture and violence meted out by the Los Zetas were posted online in order to strike fear in the hearts of their enemies. One such instance is the case of a young boy whose torture video went viral online. The young boy looked to be a teenager and was said to be a member of the Sinaloa cartel. Oftentimes, young boys are kidnapped and forcefully recruited and made to act as mules or lookouts for local gangs. Other times, they're recruited and trained to join the cartels as sicarios. But this young boy's case was the case of boys forced to act as mules. His name was not identified in the video and no one knew who he was, but that didn't stop members of the Zetas cartel from unleashing a world of horror on him. For this boy, the day probably started like any other day, with tasks to fulfill for the bosses of the Zetas cartel. But what started out as an ordinary day would take a very deadly turn. He would soon find himself captive of rival cartel members. He would be and information that he didn't have because he was only a foot soldier would be slowly beaten out of him. Before long, he would find himself dragged to a remote location and read some more. No matter how many times he protested, he didn't know anything. It didn't matter to his members. He would be executed nonetheless. This young boy knew it was guaranteed death when he found himself shoved to his knees, with a few cartel guys pointing a phone at him, filming him. When they brought out the firearms and aimed it at him, he knew he didn't have very long. He knew there was no escape, and in the next few seconds, he won't be living anymore. It's terrifying to even think about, but that was the reality for this young boy. Now, both cases we've talked about so far have been cases of people getting caught in the crossfire of cartel turf wars. But this next case is slightly different. The murder of Juan Luis Lugones Risoles, sad as it was, could have been totally avoided. In December 2017, Juan Luis Lugones Risoles, a YouTube star known as El Pirata de Culiacan, acted on a drunken moment and decided to record a video insulting El Mencho. For those who don't know, El Mencho is one of the most violent cartel leaders in existence, and what he did to this young YouTuber will shock the skins of your bones. Nemesio Ruben Oseguera Cervantes, also known as El Mencho, is a notorious drug lord and leader of the Jalisco New Generation Cartel. Nemesio Cervantes was born into a poor Mexican family with 5 children. In 1980, he found his way into the US to seek more opportunities and hopefully find a better life. But what he did find was a life of crime. He got into distributing and smuggling drugs across the US-Mexican border and was arrested for it multiple times. After one too many arrests, Nemesio was deported to Mexico, where he faced imprisonment. But once in Mexico, it looked like he was determined to turn away from a life of crime. He joined the Jalisco Police Task Force and for a while tried to toe the straight and narrow path. But before long, he again fell into the allure of the criminal lifestyle. He left the Jalisco Police Task Force to join the Milenio Cartel, and there this brutal image of El Mencho was carved. In the next couple of years, El Mencho forged an identity of brutality and violence, quickly rising to the top of the Milenio Cartel. However, when the former leader of the cartel was caught, there was an opening in the ranks, and El Mencho made a play for it, but he wasn't the only one. Soon enough, conflict began to arise within the cartel. El Mencho decided it wasn't worth it. He left the cartel, taking a portion of the members with him, and formed a new cartel named Los Matazetas. Over the next few years, Los Matazetas went through a lot of changes, one of which was its name. It is now known as the Cartel de Jalisco Nueva Generación, or the Jalisco New Generation Cartel.
The Jalisco New Generation Cartel took the fight to the next level, shooting down a military helicopter with a rocket-propelled grenade, killing people, 6 of them, last week.
Although the CJNG were new to the game, their leader was not, and he made sure to build a formidable cartel that could not be messed with. To get the word out, the CJNG resorted to a gruesome level of violence, taking down anything or anyone that stood on their path to dominance. They engaged in various criminal activities to get money, including drug trafficking, kidnappings, and extortion. So it was immediately clear that El Mencho was a man capable of horrific violence, and he was not to be crossed. So it came as a shock when a video made its way to TikTok. In that video, the young boy Juan Luis was deemed as brave by some people and foolish by others. This is because everyone knows the only way to survive in Mexico is to put your head down and avoid the attention of the cartels. Juan Luis decided to toe a different path, one that would bring about his sudden and violent death. In December 2017, Luis posted a video insulting the leader of CJNG, El Mencho, calling him names and saying he wasn't afraid of him. The video quickly went viral, and unfortunately, it found its way to members of the cartel. What happened next shocked the people of Mexico.
El Mencho, a mí me...
After Juan Luis posted the video, life went on as usual. There seemed to be no immediate repercussions, so Juan thought he was invincible. But a few weeks later, repercussions came for Juan in ways he could never have imagined. On that fateful day, he went on to a bar to celebrate with friends. He confidently posted the location of the bar on his TikTok, encouraging his followers to come and party with him and his friends. That night, as Juan partied the night away, gunmen invaded the spot and opened fire on Juan. He died on the spot. He was said to have been hit so many times that his body was severely disfigured to the point that he could only be recognized by his tattoos.